What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the PG Pirates Show presented by FanDuel. My name is Colin Beazley, and I cover the Pirates at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. You may notice Pirates are currently in Atlanta. I am not in Atlanta. I am home in Pittsburgh. My good friend Matt Press has been on the road covering the team in Houston and Atlanta. He's done an awesome job so far. You can check out all of his work at post-gazette.com. His coverage has been really, really good. I'm sure he will be joining me on this YouTube channel sometime soon. But I have worked a little bit. I have had some coverage, some stories come out, including a mailbag that, as usual, drops every Friday. This one came out this morning. We talked a little bit about Paul Skenes, a little bit about the bullpen, a little bit about Jared Jones. I'm very, very excited to get into some questions and answers like always. You can email me, cbeasley@post-gazette.com, DM me or tweet at me on Twitter, Colin_Beazley, or just drop a comment in the YouTube comments section. I'm looking forward to answering questions however you may have them. I expect to have another one of these next Friday. So feel free to drop those questions. Would love to answer as many as I can. And we're starting with one that I think is an entertaining one. And this one comes from Jim Rosati. You may know him from North Shore 9, his YouTube channel. And he simply put this one out there, and I thought this was really funny and a good way to kick this off. He simply says, Colin, when will the pain end? And to that I say, it's sports, Jim. Does the pain ever really end? But I also found it interesting that this is the timing for this question. Obviously, this one came after Wednesday's loss, which was one of the most painful Pirates losses I've seen, one of the most dramatic ones I've ever watched or I've ever covered. Matt was the one who wrote about it, but the Pirates had an absolute bullpen meltdown on Wednesday night. They're losing 11-9. They led 8-5 late, 8-3 late. Just had a really commanding lead that should have been enough for a victory. Instead, it all unravels in a 6-run rally with 2 outs in the 8th inning. And I'm not going to pretend things are sunshines and rainbows because they're not. There's issues. But it's also interesting that this is the timing for this question, considering the Pirates have won 5 of their last 6. They are 34-29 and currently in possession of a wild card spot. And this is pretty easily the best Pirates team since 2015, which offers some perspective, but also makes these losses just that much more painful. Something that stood out to me this year is just how many sky is falling losses the Pirates have had this year. Using nothing more than the eyeball test, I counted 12 of them. That ranges from the opening day nightmare to bullpen meltdowns on Skenes bobblehead day, San Francisco, Houston, St. Louis, Chicago, and there's a couple more. Few abnormal starts from Skenes, few sweeps, and being shut out by German Marquez, of all people. Yet still, this is a team that's 5 games above 500, in possession of a wild card spot, and like I said, has won 5 of 6. I do think that the bullpen, which we'll get into in a second, has struggled so badly that that's a weakness alone that could cost them a playoff spot. There are other warts like the defense and Henry Davis and Marcell Ozuna that we've talked about on this channel, but none of them could have resulted in 13 blown saves like the bullpen has. In my opinion, it's a fixable issue, but a major one. If it's addressed, maybe then the pain will end. But realistically, sports in general will simply find another way to frustrate us. Speaking of sports, the Pirates start a 3-game series with the Atlanta Braves tonight in Atlanta. Matt is down at Truist Park to cover it. And O'Neal Cruz is plus 410 to homer today, plus 5,000 to hit 2 homers. Some other home run lines, Michael Harris, the second, is plus 370. And Matt Olson is also plus 370. Those are some odds. You can check it out from our friends at FanDuel. Now to get into a little bit more of the bullpen issues, this question comes from Chad on X. And the question simply is, when will they make a trade? And my answer is probably when the pain ends. No, I'm kidding about that, of course. But I'll reiterate, it is hard to make a trade for pretty much anything worth anything in June when basically every team believes they can compete. However, trades can be possible to make, if you're willing to pay a premium. In my opinion, even with 5 of 6, even with what we saw from Carmen Mlodzinski last night, the Pirates should still be willing to pay a premium for bullpen help. Now, this is just speculating, but I saw a mock trade on Twitter suggesting that the Pirates offer prospects Sammy Stafura and Jeter Martinez to the San Francisco Giants right-hander Keaton Winn. Keaton Winn, he's 28. He's got a 2.30 ERA and 27 1/3 innings this season. He made just 7 major league appearances last year. 2 top 30 prospects like Stafura, I think he's number 12, and Martinez is something like number 25. That would be an aggressive overpay for a pitcher without much of a track record. It's also the type of trade you can make in June. That one in particular, I'm not sure if I'd go for that. I know that Wynn's under team control until like 2031, so that's enticing. But again, he's got so little of a track record. However, that sort of trade, that sort of overpay is something that I think the Pirates should consider. I think it's worth looking at things like that. Again, not necessarily that one, but a team like the Giants would take that sort of deal for a reliever, and the Pirates could really use a solid right-handed reliever. That sort of deal is a deal that can be made in June. I might have said May a couple times, but it is June. It is June 5th when you're watching this, or at least when I'm recording this. This question's a little bit of a two-parter, and this comes from Monongahela Marauder on X, and then also from Rounder829 on X. And we'll start with the Mon Marauder. Why is Skenes' heater down, the 96, 97 mile an hour crap being too conservative, ? And then from Rounder, this sounds absurd to suggest for a 24-year-old, but is it possible Skenes has a dead arm? After throwing nearly 190 innings last year, then WBC in 70 innings so far this season, he clearly doesn't look himself and hasn't gone past 5 innings since those back-to-back 8-inning shutouts. No, Skenes doesn't have a dead arm. And it is absurd to suggest that, in my opinion, after a few mediocre starts, especially considering the stretch of dominant starts he was on before that. I feel like in this world of immediacy, we forget about the 8 starts before this current little slump where Skenes had a 1.09 ERA and 55 strikeouts and 49 1/3 innings, and Pirates went 6-1 in those 8 starts. I think that he was really, really good, and yes, he hasn't been great in his last couple, but he's still Paul Skenes. And his Baseball Savant page, which shows underlying data, has really, really similar numbers to his Cy Young campaign last year. There are some difference, and one of those, like the Mon Marauder suggested, is fastball velocity. Last year, Paul Skenes averaged 98.1 on his fastball. Or excuse me, I have a typo in there. He averaged 98.1 in his fastball last year. It's at 97 this year. I don't know exactly why the velocity dips, but it's still a very, very effective pitch. It's a 99th percentile pitch per Savant last year and 98th this year. Still very, very good. His overall expected ERA is 2.29 this year, which is the 97th percentile. That's the same thing as last year when it was 2.65. Again, 97th percentile. However, there are some interesting differences and informative differences. Not necessarily a big deal, but Paul Skenes is striking out the same percentage of hitters. He's walking fewer, but his whiff rate dropped from 30% essentially to 26% this year. His breaking pitches have been a little bit less valuable. And the one that I find interesting, the one that I'm monitoring a little bit, is that he's tinkered with his arm slot. He threw at a 23-degree arm angle over the last 2 years. It's a slightly higher 25-degree arm angle this year. It's different, and he's getting less swing and miss, so I'd like to see him attack the zone a little bit more for some more efficiency. I think that'll help. He threw 109 pitches and 4 2/3 innings on Wednesday, which is something that shouldn't happen. But I'm also not worried about him. It is something worth monitoring because this is the first time he's had any sort of slump, but I'm not too concerned about it. Word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are the delicious, low-sugar, brain and body fuel you need to win your day. All IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. There are plenty of flavor combinations to choose from across all IQ Bar products, including mint chocolate chip, blueberry pomegranate, and vanilla spice. With over 25,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. And their ultimate sampler pack includes all 3. Right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000's message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. This question comes from Brent Blevins on X. What is the best and worst case scenario for Jared Jones returning this season? My opinion, the best case scenario is what we saw yesterday, where he pitches 5 or 6 or eventually 7 strong innings and can get the ball to someone like Carmen Mlodzinski to finish a win. Pirates aren't going to be too aggressive with his pitch count. I don't expect any complete games with Jared Jones this year. So having him put the bullpen in a good spot is what they're looking for. If you can get quality 15 or so starts from Jones this year, being conservative, at least in the regular season, that's an absolute win. But I think the worst case scenario, besides an injury, of course, or Jones forgetting how to pitch or something like that, is that he puts the Pirates in a position where they have to have Mlodzinski or Wilbur Dotel available in whenever Jones is starting. One of the reasons the Pirates lost Wednesday, beyond the simple of Mason Montgomery and Gregory Soto not being able to get that last out, is because they weren't able to use Mlodzinski in that game. They knew they had to save him for Jared Jones' start. That's fine now. I get it. But usually in that situation, when Paul Skenes goes 4 2/3 or 5 or something along those lines, the Pirates will be able to throw Wilbur Dotel or Carmen Mlodzinski or something along those lines. They weren't able to on Wednesday because they knew that Mlodzinski was going to have to be used on Thursday. That's something that puts your bullpen at a disadvantage when you've got an effective reliever that you know you need to save for the next day. I don't have any issue with Don Kelly or the Pirates making that decision on Wednesday. I totally get it. I think we saw how it worked on Thursday and why they did that. However, it was a disadvantage that they had to deal with on Wednesday. And I think in an ideal world in that sort of game, you could just go Skenes to Mlodzinski and close it out. However, because Jared Jones isn't built up yet, they need to be careful with him, and they need to make sure that they had someone available for him. I think moving on in the future, once Jones is a little bit more built up, once he's back in a rhythm, once he can consistently give you 6 innings, then you have options with how you deploy your long relievers. But right now, it is something where it's a little bit of a disadvantage needing to save Mlodzinski or Dotel. However, what we saw on Thursday, those 5 really strong scoreless innings, that's a taste of what Jared Jones is, what he was in 2024. And that, of course, is what the Pirates hope he can be for much of this year. Final question comes from Sean's Rambling on X. What players currently in the minors could make an impact on the team this season? And I assume that, first of all, I love some minor league talk. So anytime, any minor league questions, I love answering them, whether that's X, Twitter, email, YouTube comments, whatever it is. I specifically love talking about the minors. So if you've got something on your mind that can be answered in one of these shows, feel free to drop it in the comments or email me. A big fan of covering the Pirates minor league system and cover it as closely as I can. But anyways, I assume that Sean wasn't talking about players who have appeared already for the Pirates. But I'll make sure to mention that I expect Isaac Mattson, Hunter Barco, and Cam Sanders to pitch again for the Pirates this year. I also expect Esmeralyn Valdez, Nick York, and Billy Cook to all return at some point. And I haven't forgotten about Thomas Harrington, Jose Urquidy, or Rafael Flores. I just think that their paths to the majors seem a little bit tougher. That said, the major league debut that I'm most excited for, the next one I'm expecting is Antwone Kelly. He's the Pirates' number 7 prospect, 22-year-old right-hander with a fastball that can reach 100. Got a 3.35 ERA over his last 9 appearances for Indianapolis. And what I think was interesting is that his last outing came in relief in a Dotel Mlodzinski type role where he came in the 3rd and pitched 3 strong innings. Maybe that's a sign that the Pirates are preparing him for a potential bullpen role. They want to see what he looks like in that. And I think that would be something that's really interesting to see. He's a starting pitcher, but maybe he can have a similar impact in that Dotel or Mlodzinski type role. Maybe he can come through and at least get his feet wet in the majors that way. And also maybe that's the answer to the bullpen woes. Maybe it is 8 starting pitchers. It's probably not, but at this point, anything is worth a shot. I certainly expect Antwone Kelly to get to the big leagues at some point this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. That'll do it for this week's edition of the Pirates Mailbag. Thank you guys for all of your questions and for watching. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to me either in the comments or elsewhere. Looking forward to taking your questions, and I will talk to Yins again soon. Thanks again.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.